Hello my lovelies and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. So for today's video I decided to ask you guys on my Instagram, what makeup steps are you struggling with and what do you need help with when it comes to makeup application. A lot of you guys sent in things that you were struggling with, steps that you needed help with, stuff that you were unsure of, and I basically answered it step by step today whilst doing a full face of makeup for you guys. So I run through everything in depth, from eyelashes to foundation to skin types and all of the above, and this is what look I created. So yeah, basically just gave out a bunch of tips and tricks in depth on how to create a full face of flawless makeup. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I guess let's just get straight into it. Okay, I don't know how everyone like does their hair like this and makes it look super cute. I just kind of just tried to get my hair out of my face, so what's new? Okay, so first things first, a lot of you guys sent in to me that your biggest struggle was actually your eyebrows. Funny enough, I can't really do eyebrows either. However, I'm going to try my best to describe to you how I do my eyebrows, and also hopefully some tips that will help you guys with your current struggle. First things first, I always find that the best way to start off your eyebrow routine is obviously a good product. So I use the Benefit Browsings. I absolutely love it so much. It's perfect for when I just quickly want to chuck something in my eyebrows, or if I want to do like something full glam with my eyebrows. I'm gonna grab my little spoolie at the end of my eyebrow brush, and I'm just gonna grab like a little mirror. I like to do my eyebrows quite close up so I can get like all the details. Look how bad my brows need to be cut. Wow. So with eyebrows, what I like to do is just go in with the tiniest bit of pomade. Now the pomade is usually something that should be used only for really sparse areas. I recommend in lighter areas that you want to go over in the eyebrows, just using a powder. That way it's not going to be too harsh. So firstly, I always go from kind of the middle section and only really try to define my arch. Your arch in your brow should be about here, so it's the outer part of like where your pupil ends, directly upwards. So I'm just like lightly tracing these areas here. I never really do my eyebrows too dark because, as you can tell, I don't really need it. So with eyebrows, you should really only aim to actually fill in the areas that are sparse in the brows, so the parts that are like missing hairs or aren't as full. I also like to define the shape a little bit, so if your shape is a little bit off, make sure you just define the arch. I don't like to focus too much product in the front part of your eyebrows. This is where I like to get a little bit of the powder side. So for the front part, I'm just taking a little bit of powder and ever so slightly just running my brush kind of like upwards, just like little hairs, the way they grow. This is just going to give your brow a more natural look in the front rather than that boxy brow look, especially if you don't have much to the front of your eyebrows. You want to make sure that it's quite a faded gradient rather than a sharp boxed out brow. When it comes to the end of your eyebrow, your tail should end actually, if you were to line up your brush, in this outer corner here. So make sure that when you're doing the tail of your brow, it ends at about, like if you were to put your brush there, at the outer corner of your eye. So once I've filled my eyebrows in, they're obviously looking a bit thick and a little bit dark. I'm going to try and help carve the shape of the eyebrows out now and just make them look a little bit cleaner and tidier, just a little bit more put together on the face. So what I like to do is carve them out with a bit of concealer. So I'm going to take a little bit of the Revolution Conceal and Define Concealer. You can literally use anything you want for something like this. It can be a concealer, it can be a paint pot, it can be a base, anything really, just to underline this under arch. So I'm just going to take this in the shade C2 and pop a little bit on the back of my hand. From there, I'm going to take this Morphe M432 brush. It's just a little angled brush, as you can see. It's a really nice brush to be able to get a sharp line and just have lots of precision and control over the brush. And what I like to do is just run the concealer underneath of my brows, just following my natural arch all the way to the end. Because I'm going to be doing eyeshadow next, I'm just going to be popping this all over my lid. And this will be used as my lid base for today. Now you're more than welcome to use any other lid base that you want to. Like I said before, like a P. Louise base, any other concealer you want to use that you think will work well for you, or maybe like a MAC Painterly paint pot. They also work really well as well. I'm just going to drag all the way down and then blend it out. I will just do this end little part here where my arch is to make it more defined, because I don't have a very defined arch. Okay, so now that eyebrows are done, the next thing that you guys said you had a lot of trouble with was actually eyeshadow. There was lots of comments saying eyeshadow, blending eyeshadow, what colors suit, how to do a cut crease. So I'm just going to try and cover as many as I kind of can for you guys in order to help you out with your eyeshadow, because I know this is a big one. It takes a while to get used to, especially learning your own eye shape and learning others' eye shape and what suits and what doesn't. Okay, so because I've already put that eye base down, I've just used the concealer to make a nice solid base for my eyeshadow. This is so that no veins or discoloration or anything is going to get in the way of my shadows, and so it's a nice blank canvas. Now this step is personal preference. For me, I personally like to set my eye base before I place anything or any shadows on top. I just feel like for me personally, it's an easier way to blend the eyeshadows without it being too wet and sticky. So I'm just taking a little bit of translucent powder to set my lids. So honestly, you can use any powder for this, it really doesn't matter. So today I'm going to be working from the Morphe James Charles palette. I just think it has a beautiful range of colors, and it also has quite a few neutral shades as well that I can work with for today. When it comes to finding what eyeshadow looks good for you and what colors work well together, you just need to think about the different undertones that are within some eyeshadows. Some are warmer and some are cooler. For example, these shades here are all warmer tone shades. These are your orangey kind of shades, your warmer kind of shades. Whereas this shade here, I'd say is probably more of a cool shade, and probably this one in the corner here, if you can see it. It looks a bit warm on camera, but in real life it's a little bit cooler. And in terms of what looks good with you, it's just a matter of playing around on what you like. I find that with my eyes, I really like lots of warm tone shades, lots of bronzies. I also really like lots of pinky cranberry shades on my eye color, whereas I find like with blue eyes on my clients, oranges and like reds and stuff look incredible on like blue eyes to make them stand out and pop. Now, when it comes to your transition shade, this is the shade that is going to help all of your other colors blend nicely and seamlessly on top. So first things first, make sure you're going to go in with this shade here today. Grab a little bit on a big fluffy brush. This is just a Morphe M441 brush. I'm just going to tap off the excess. This is just to make sure that not too much pigment is going on your brush. It's better to work from a little bit and then build upwards rather than having too much and putting it down and finding out that you can't blend it out. So I'm just going to pop this in the socket of my crease. Now when you're popping down your transition shade, you want to just lightly start blending it through your crease. It can be a little bit messy as the transition is kind of just the first base shade that's being placed down. And what I like to do with mine, and what I would actually give advice to anyone, is work your way always in circles. Circular motions are honestly the best. Now with your transition shade, what you're wanting to aim is start with a lighter shade so that you can build your darker shades on top of, and it will become a nice gradient effect on your eyes. The next shade I'm going to be going in with is actually this big shade here. So your aim with this next shade is basically to pop it in this outer corner of your eye and then drag it through. What I'm going to do is take an even smaller brush so I can really precisely get into my crease. This is a Morphe M433 brush. This brush is honestly incredible. I know everyone raves about it, but honestly it is amazing for its price as well. And I'm just going to place it in this outer corner of my eye, just a little bit by a little bit, to see how I like it. Just popping that down like so. And then from there, I'm going to start slowly doing the circular motions again, and then start running it through the crease. And then already I'm going back and forth with that same transition shade and the shade that I'm just placing down now. And this has got a little bit of the transition shade on it, and just blending that out. Going back and forth with your bigger fluffy brush will mean that the outer part of your eyeshadow will be blended nice and seamlessly. It won't be as harsh on the outer corners, and it's going to make it so much nicer and just easier to work with during the process of doing your eyeshadow. or even with a clean blending brush as well. This works so well for the very edges of your eyeshadow, just in case you go a little bit overboard like I sometimes do. Just going back in with that color again on the Morphe M433, and I'm packing more of it down in that outer corner there, ever so slightly. And now I'm going to run that through the crease. Now, as you guys can see, it looks a little bit messy in this front part. Like I said before, it's going to be a really easy fix. I am just going to make sure that I do have enough pigmentation in this inner corner for it to really stand out once I cut the crease. Next, to darken up the eyeshadow even more, I'm going to go in with this shade here. Absolutely love this shade. It's so gorgeous. So as you can tell, I'm going in bit by bit and progressively darkening up the eyeshadow. So just going in with that one, and I'm going with an even smaller brush now to make it more precise on the outer corners. So this is a Morphe M456, slightly smaller. As you guys can see, all the brushes get like progressively smaller. So this was my transition shade here. This was the one I just used before, and this is the one I'm about to go in with now. So with this step, I'm going to keep it quite close to the outer third of my eye and running it more throughout the outer V. So the outer V portion of your eye is this part here if you were to draw a V in this outer corner. So from here, this outer corner here, and where the end of the crease begins, up that way, is your outer V. So I'm just going to pat this pigment just in that very outer corner. This is just going to darken up the outer edge and give my eye even more dimension. I am still just blending the eyeshadow with the excess on that first brush I used, which is the transition shade, over the edges to kind of get it how I want it. And this can always be cleaned up at the end as well. Okay, so I've just gone off camera and I've done this eye here. Now I've taught you guys kind of the blending process and how I personally like to blend my eyeshadow. So now we're going to move along to cut creases. Now these can be a little bit intimidating, but honestly once you get the hang of them, they are bomb. Like, they're so good. So the first step to doing a cut crease is obviously getting a nice little brush that you're going to have good precision with, and then obviously some concealer as well. You can really use any concealer, any eye base that you want. When it comes to doing a cut crease, I'm just going to take a little bit of this concealer on the back of my hand, not too much, but just enough that it'll show up once I place it on the eye. You want to get right up underneath your eye so you can see exactly where you're going to be placing the concealer. So what you want to do is basically carve out the lid space that you already have. So you want to draw a nice line from the inner corner right until about here. See where the fold of your lid is, or where the deepest part of the socket of your eye is, and that is where you're going to carve out your lid space. From here, I'm just going to grab my mirror, really hold it up to my eye. For some people with hooded eyes, you can just pop the concealer on this place here and look directly up and it'll transfer. And then from here, I'm just going to take a little bit extra concealer just on that outer corner. And this is just going to help with that blending process. Then to finish off the cut crease, I'm going to be taking the Peaches Makeup Gatsby Loose Eyeshadow Pigment. And I'm going to mix it with a bit of the pigment drops as well, just so that the pigment sticks really nicely to the lid space. And I'm honestly just going to pop this exactly where I created the cut crease space. Now to finish off the cut crease and make sure that everything is blended together, I'm just going to be taking the M433 and also that same pigment just here. Just pick a little bit of that up, and I'm going to blend the outer edges of the cut crease and my outer corner together. Now the reason why I'm using this shade and not the darkest one right now is because I want the nice gradient look. It looks nice and faded into one another. Also, for any of you out there who may be wondering, the reason why I do my eyes first is if I get any fallout, which is like the pigment falling onto my cheeks, I can always wipe it off before I start my face makeup. Otherwise, if I do my face first and I have fallout, it's going to ruin my under eyes and my concealer and everything like that. Okay, the next thing that you guys sent in to me that a lot of you said you were struggling with is eyeliner. Now, eyeliner is just one of those things that takes a lot of practice. For me personally, I like to use a pen. On clients and other people, I like to use a gel liner with a winged liner brush. However, on myself, I've just gotten quite used to using a pen and I quite enjoy using it. So at the moment I've just been using it's kind of an old one, I probably need a new one, just an Almay. I don't even know if this brand is even still around. When I start my wing, I'm just gonna start by lining the lash line. One thing I've noticed about this pen, it bleeds a little bit on the eye, so make sure that you get a liner pen when you're first starting that doesn't bleed. When I mean bleed, it means you place it down and it starts to spread on your eye. Alright, now from here, when you're doing your winged liner, you want to line up your wing so that it's going to head towards the tail of your eyebrow on that sort of angle. Now the thickness of your liner is totally up to you. I like to create something quite thick because once again I have quite big eyes. At the moment I'm quite enjoying doing my liner just from the very outer corner of my eye and heading it up towards the end of my tail. So just making a really small line like that. I don't know if you guys can even see that, it's quite small. Drawing a line from the top to the bottom that's going to meet that line that's joined to the outer corner of my eye. The end part can be a little bit messy as well because I'm going to show you a tip on how to clean it up because I definitely struggle with the end part of my liner. Just like that. Now I know this is looking quite messy at the moment, don't worry, we are going to fix it. At least I've got kind of like the angle and the line that I'm going to base my liner off. So what I'm going to do from here is place my liner in the center part where that line is and drag it down and meet it at about this part of my eye. So what I'm going to do is go like that. That's cute, but I want to make it a little bit thicker, so I'm going to go and make it a bit thicker. So now we've got a wing on one eye. It is a little bit more like flicked up than I usually have my liner, but that's okay. So now in my head I've decided I don't actually like this wing, so I'm going to fix it. So what I'm going to do is grab that handy brush I used to carve out my eyebrows. This brush is honestly life, it helps fix everything. So I'm going to take a bit of the excess concealer, not too much, otherwise you're going to go overboard and you're going to mess this up even more than it already is. And I'm going to place the edge of that on the outer corner of my wing and drag it upwards like so. And that's how you get more of like a sharp, precise wing. Okay, the other side of my liner is on now. We move on to the absolute, like I had so many people saying that they struggle with this and I completely understand because I know starting out with makeup, this was probably the hardest thing I had to learn, and that is the devil that is false lashes. So I'm going to take you guys through step by step on how to apply false lashes. Rule number one though is definitely invest in some good eyelash glue if you're going to be doing this. You need some good lash adhesive that's actually going to work, not some cheap stuff that's going to irritate your eyes and not stick as well as a lot of other lash glues do. A lash glue that I would highly recommend, mine's really grubby, but it's the Duo lash glue and it comes in a little tube like this. It's really easy for beginners to use as it's just got a brush on strip on it so that it's easy to pop it on the lash band. The other Duo lash glue is also great as well. This one just doesn't have any latex in it, therefore it doesn't smell like the other lash glue does. And also anyone who's allergic to that sort of thing can use this. Another step is also investing in a good pair of lashes, a decent pair that is going to make your eyes stand out and pop, and a pair that is going to really flatter your eye shape. For me personally, obviously have big eyes like I've said 100 times in this video, but I have big eyes, therefore I like to go for more cat eyes, more wispy, fluffy eyelashes. I wouldn't recommend getting anything really cheap and nasty from like Kmart, for example. It's going to be trying to put those lashes on for honestly years. Get something that are nice and fluffy and wispy. The Ardell wispies are beautiful, great, and very affordable. Here are the lashes I'm going to be using today. They're a little bit grubby because I've worn them quite often. They're just the Holy Grail lashes in the style Sugar. This brand is also very affordable and they do a beautiful range of lashes if you guys want to head on there and go and get yourself a pair of eyelashes. So what I like to do is I get my eyelashes. I've worn these a few times, but I think I need to cut them because they keep cutting into my inner corners, and that is when you know you need to cut your eyelashes. So to measure your lashes, firstly take your lashes out of the packaging nice and gently, and then from there take the lashes and measure them to your eye, and then from there you can measure how much you need to cut off. Make sure when you're cutting your lashes, cut from the end of the lash band, so the outer corner rather than the inner corner. This will affect how the lash band actually sits on your eye. So I'm just gonna grab a pair of scissors, grab that very outer corner and just give it a little snip. And already that looks way better. Alright, next step is, personally for me, I prefer to put mascara on before I put my lashes on, just so that there's more lash for me to place the false lashes on top of my real lashes. So today I'm just going to be taking the NARS Climax mascara. I love this stuff so much. And I'm just going to be coating my lashes from the root upwards. Now from here, I'm going to take, you can take a pair of tweezers. I have just like these lash applicators here. Grab my lashes with that. And then I'm going to take my lash glue, just pop enough to cover the lash band, just coating it so it looks like that. Now you want to wait a little while for the lash glue to dry, just so it's nice and tacky. This way you're not going to be sitting there fiddling around with the lashes for ages. It'll stick to the spots straight away and you'll be able to adjust them into the right place. So I'm just going to wait a little bit. Then from here I'm going to apply my lashes. So what I'm going to do is grab a mirror, look right into my mirror just like I did with my liner, and pop them on as close to my natural lash line as possible. I like to pop the middle part down first, and then from there adjusting it and pulling it along to place the outer corner down. That one you can really feel in that outer corner as well, so it's easy enough to feel where it's being placed. And then the inner corner is where everyone struggles the most. I like to do this last and hold it there for a wee while until it sets into place, because I know that this can be quite a struggle for some people. Also, if you do have heavier lashes, I find that they're easier to work with because they usually have a thicker lash band, whereas really skinny thin lashes sometimes take a wee while to play around with. These Holy Grail lashes, like honestly one of the easiest pair of lashes I've had to apply ever. Okay, I've just gone and applied the other lash on this side. They're a little bit older, like I've worn these lashes like 100 times. And because they are older, I did need to go over the top lash line a little bit just to cover the lash band with some gel liner. So that is the eyes all done. We can now move on to face. Alright, so I've zoomed you guys out a little bit more for face so we can kind of just like chat, have a little bit more relaxed. A lot of you guys said to me that when it comes to foundation, you guys need help and struggle with creasing under the eyes, what kind of foundation works best for certain skin types, separation on the skin, and also how to prevent dry and clumpy kind of patches on the skin. So first things first, when it comes to doing your makeup, you need to make sure that in order to reduce any dry or uneven surfaces on the skin is to get rid of any dead skin cells. So it's keeping up with your skincare routine and exfoliating a few times a week, and this is just going to ensure that your makeup and your foundation is going to go on flawlessly. So obviously already I've exfoliated my face, and also I have moisturized. Now moisturizer is one of those things that everyone needs to use, I swear. Even if you have dry or oily skin, you need to find a moisturizer that works best for you, because you do need to keep and lock in that hydration after you have exfoliated, because it does get rid of lots of the natural oils in your skin. I have already moisturized, and I moisturized before even starting this video. I use the Aveeno Daily Moisturizing Lotion. You can use any moisturizer that works best for you. If you do have really sensitive skin, I would highly recommend this one. Okay, so next is finding the right primer that is going to work with your foundation. The reason for separation is usually because the foundation and the primer you're using aren't mixing very well. To avoid that, you need to make sure that if you're using a silicone based primer, that you use a foundation that works well with silicone base underneath. That can be sometimes the reason that your foundation will separate on the skin. So for me personally, I don't really like to use bases that have silicone in them. The ones that do are the ones that have that gritty, not the gritty feeling, like that feeling that's like pore filling, and like the Benefit one, and also like the Maybelline pore one, you know, that kind of feeling. That is the kind of silicone-y feeling that I'm talking about. With me, I like to use something that's more hydrating because I get combo to more dry skin, and I like to use stuff that is very hydrating and moisturizing and makes my skin look very luminous. If you are on the oilier side, maybe silicone works best for you, but it's totally personal preference. If you like using matte foundations, I believe that would probably work better, but it's all about testing it out and making sure you figure out what works best for your oily or combo or dry skin. So for me, I go between two different primers. This has just been my ride or die, and this is the Too Faced Hangover Primer. It is so hydrating and so moisturizing. It's just one of those primers I like to use when my skin is very dry. Then also use the MAC Strobe Cream. This is the kind of primer that I like to use if I want a really luminous glow and I'm using a foundation that is more matte. So for today, I've already moisturized and my skin is feeling quite good, so I kind of want to use the MAC Strobe Cream today just to give my skin that extra bit of glow to my foundation. I'm just going to pop this on my fingers and I'm honestly just going to work it into my face. So the foundations that I'm currently going between at the moment is the Born This Way foundation by Too Faced. This is my all-time favorite foundation. Like, I just love it so much. And then I've got my good old MAC Studio Fix Fluid. I currently have my shade, because I'm not fake tanned at the moment, I currently have my shade in the Studio Fix, so I'm going to be using that one today, whereas my Too Faced one is in a darker shade and it's a bit too dark for me. So today I'm going to be using Studio Fix in NW13, and I'm going to be applying this with a beauty blender just because I find that this foundation in particular works really nicely with a beauty blender. If I am going to be using a brush to buff my foundation in, I will only ever use the Morphe M439 brush. It looks like this. It's quite dirty at the moment because I used it last. I find that that only really works for me personally without leaving streak marks with certain foundations. For example, it works really well with the Revolution Conceal and Define, and I think it's because it's got a more matte finish, but I think it also could just be my own skin. To get my foundation to look really seamless and smooth, I'm going to be taking my beauty blender and I'm just going to place some foundation on the back of my hand, and then I'm just gonna actually just go like this. I think someone may have also asked how to figure out your foundation shade. You need to work out whether you are warm tone or cool tone. For me, I'm more cool tone when I'm not wearing fake tan. If you're warm tone, it means you have olivey undertones in your skin, and if you're cool, you're more just like pinky, if that makes sense. One thing that I really do like about this MAC foundation is that it works quite well for a lot of different skin types. So if you do struggle to find a foundation that you think works for you, even ask for a little sample at MAC. It's the Studio Fix Fluid. Okay, next step, concealer. I'm just going to be taking the Too Faced Born This Way concealer. If you do struggle with lots of separation underneath the eyes, try and find something that is either not too heavy or sits well with your foundation, because that's probably the reason why it's separating in that area. You do also just want to make sure you find something that's nice and light and brightening. This concealer is honestly incredible. You also want to find a concealer that doesn't accentuate the fine lines underneath your eyes. That's what happens when creasing occurs. Naturally, everyone has creases under their eyes. It's inevitable that you're going to get a little bit of creasing under the eyes if you do naturally have them, but there are a few ways to avoid them, like quickly baking straight after you pat your concealer in, making sure you get a concealer that doesn't accentuate the fine lines, something that sits nicely in place underneath your eyes, and just making sure that you're patting the product right in there. Oh, I forgot to mention, make sure that your beauty blender is nice and damp. This is going to make sure that the product is spread nice and evenly and it soaks up the right amount of product so that it's not too heavy on the skin and just makes your skin look way more flawless. A dry beauty blender is just going to get you nowhere, so make sure it's a little bit damp. Okay, so now to prevent creasing, you've got to go straight away under your eyes. I like to bake to prevent it from happening. I'm just going to use the Too Faced Peach Powder in the back of a lid here. Laura Mercier also works fantastically. Just make sure you find a powder that doesn't have any flashback. Flashback is when your foundation or concealer contains SPF, and when you take flash photography, it is going to bounce right back and leave a white cast. Face is going to be white and your body is going to be tan, and trust me, it's not pretty, especially under your eyes. So make sure you use a powder that doesn't have any flashback. So straight away, because I have just pat that concealer down, I'm going to go right in under my eyes and pat that in there. I'm just going to let this bake under my eyes for a little while. The stuff tends to soak into the skin anyway. It's really beautiful. So it's getting darker outside, so the lighting's kind of changing. Anyway, this is how my makeup's looking so far. I just put some powder on my face and I also did my under eyes. So the next thing that you guys asked me a lot about that you say you were struggling with is contouring. A lot of you guys are saying that you struggle with your bronzer and contour looking muddy, and where to contour, what are the right places, applying bronzer, contour evenly. So contour was definitely a highly requested one. I would recommend going for something that's a little bit warmer on the skin. Usually when your bronzer look and contour looks muddy, it's because the undertone of it is too dark and too cool against your own skin tone, and that's when it starts to look muddy and chalky and just, yeah, you cannot go wrong with the Hoola bronzer. This is the perfect shade of bronzer, and they've brought out a lighter one for lighter skin tones and a dark one for darker skin tones as well. So I'm going to be using this today to start the contouring process. How you want to place your bronzer is in a 3 shape. So I like to do my contour bronzer, it's pretty much the same thing I feel. With contour, you just want to do more of like a smaller strip in this one portion here. Make sure you don't go too low, but I'll show you a tip on how to fix it if you do. But you kind of want to aim to slightly just pop your brush in this little back crevice that aligns with this top part of your ear. So wherever that is, you want to just use small little circular motions and just slowly start adding some product to carve out your cheekbones, because really the whole idea of contouring and bronzing is to carve out your cheekbones, make your facial structure more defined, and then also dragging that up into the temples. If you have a larger forehead, what you want to do is aim to bronze up your face even more in this area, and if you have a smaller forehead, you want to highlight it with concealer to make it appeal bigger. Because Hoola's so matte as well, if you're on the drier side, I'd recommend a more luminous bronzer such as the Too Faced Chocolate Gold Soleil. You know this is my favorite. Once again, hit pan. But if you do get acne in these types of portions and you want to keep the coverage full, I would recommend using a matte bronzer, just because it doesn't show the acne lumps as much as what a luminous does. If you pop a luminous highlighting bronzer on top, it is going to show the acne even more. So if you want to keep that covered, then do that. Now, an angled brush like this is honestly perfect for bronzer and contour. You can easily stop there if you want to. That could easily just be your bronzer and contour as one, because Hoola is very versatile. However, I'm going to pop a little bit extra on because I love bronzer. Just going to pop the Too Faced on top. When I pop my bronzer on, I aim mainly for this section here, because I feel as though if we put blush on top of it, it blends way nicer together. So I'm a little bit messy with this, and I like to just pop it kind of in this general area. This brush is incredible though, it kind of just does it for you. It's the Morphe M527, and it's just so like easy, if you can see the difference, you know. Now if you go a little bit too overboard with your bronzer, as I usually do, just grab your powder, loose translucent powder as you did before. What I like to do is just go from probably where my earlobe is to where the end of my bronzer starts. Just go like this. and that'll fully fix your problem, especially if you take it too low and the placement's wrong. It's so easy just to quickly fix it up. Okay, so I've just gone and applied some blush and some highlighter off camera. No one really asked about it, so now because so many powders have been laid on the face, you can lose a little bit of hydration and glowiness during this, and your skin can look a little bit cakey with all the products on top. This is where I like to either set my face or just kind of use a skin mist or something like that to lock everything in place. So I go between a few different setting mists and sprays. I use the Too Faced Hangover 3-in-1 if I want to reduce any cakiness on the skin. I feel like this is so nice and replenishing, and it just helps the makeup sit really nicely. Obviously, Urban Decay All Nighter if I want my makeup to last all night. This stuff, honestly, is the only setting spray that I've used so far that I think actually works in this aspect. It makes your makeup last all night, and when you spray it on, you can really feel it locking the makeup in. And then last but not least, also to kind of just help the makeup and the powders all set together really nicely, I love using the MAC Prep and Prime as well. As you can tell, I have hardly any left. For right now, I'm not keeping this on all night, so I'm just going to use this one here. Okay guys, so this is the final look. I've just applied some liquid lipstick, Mellow Cosmetics and Ibiza as always. I hope this video helped any of you out there who have been struggling with these different steps of makeup, and I hope at least one of you out there have taken away some form of tip or trick that'll hopefully help you with your makeup routine the next time you do your makeup. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up or subscribe to my channel down below. All my social media will also be all down below, so don't forget to go follow me on there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all so much, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye!